The iPad 8th generation. 8th generation, my gosh, they grow up so quick. What's up, YouTube? It's your boy, BMAC. And if this is your first time here to this channel, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Make sure you smash that subscribe button with all notifications turned on so that you never miss another video on this channel. And if you've been here before, or if you're already subscribed, welcome back. So today, indeed, we do have the Apple iPad 8th generation, the regular iPad out of the entire iPad lineup. And the regular iPad is usually a fun iPad to look at because of all that you're getting built into this thing without it being too expensive. So we're gonna keep that in mind today as we break down this iPad 8th generation, give you some thoughts, review this puppy, all that good stuff. Starting things out with the iconic design of the Apple iPad 8th generation. What's the design looking like? So in terms of the design of the iPad 8, we've got a lot of things that we're pretty much used to by now. We've got a 10.2-inch Retina display, your rather rare 3.5mm audio jack, your stereo speakers, your lightning port on the bottom of the device, and last but not least, that iconic Touch ID home button with your somewhat legacy design top and bottom bezels. You're also getting the iPad 8th generation available in 3 different finishes. You have silver, gold, and space gray to choose from. You still have that aluminum back with that shiny Apple logo. The back of the iPad 8 being with those curved edges while the front of the display is flat. And the thickness, one of the things that always blows my mind with these Apple tablets here, the iPads, a thickness of just 0.29 inches. A thickness of just over a 1/4 inch. Honestly, that is what makes this thing so miraculous. The fact that you get all this power, all this interaction with the display with just a 1/4 inch thickness, it's mind-blowing. But speaking of that iPad 8th generation display, we're gonna have to talk a few minutes about the iPad 8 display. Just like the 7th generation, you are getting on the 8th generation a 10.2-inch LED backlit Retina display, coming in at 2,160 pixels by 1,620 pixels, giving you a 264 PPI pixel density rating, backed up with a maximum brightness of 500 nits. Anytime a device has a display with 500 nits of brightness, I'm generally happy. That's gonna be pretty sufficient for my needs both indoors and outdoors, even in brightly lit situations. One thing to keep in mind here, you are only getting a 60 Hz refresh rate in the iPad 8th generation display, as opposed to the 120 Hz refresh rate you're getting in the iPad Pro. And you're only getting a standard color range on the iPad 8th generation display, as opposed to the wide color gamut you're getting on the iPad Air and the iPad Pro. So for your basic display needs, there's not a whole lot here you can critique in the iPad 8th generation. It's got your basics and it's Retina. So if you're just a basic iPad user, the Retina quality is probably what you're gonna notice most. But one thing we do have to touch on here, because it's part of the device, are the cameras. What are those cameras looking like on the iPad 8? Well, like we already mentioned, you do have a front-facing selfie camera as well as a rear-facing wide camera. The front-facing camera being an f2.2 1.2 megapixel selfie camera, capable of up to 720p HD video recording, while the rear-facing camera is an f2.4 8 megapixel wide-angle lens, capable of up to 1080p 30 frames per second HD video footage. So, in case it's not obvious, you're not gonna be getting the iPad 8th generation for its cameras. They're there, they'll get the job done, they'll allow you to video conference or take a quick snapshot if you need that, but just don't plan on getting the regular iPad for its camera capabilities. If you really want a really good camera in the iPad, that's where you're gonna wanna take a look at the iPad Air and the iPad Pro, specifically the iPad Pro. So we're seeing a lot of the same so far with the iPad 8th gen, but where things start to differ a little bit is on the inside. Those tech specs, what we've got going on inside the actual device. For one thing, the biggest upgrade you're getting is the A12 Bionic chip built in. You are also getting 3 gigs of RAM built in to the iPad. What does that mean? Basically, the iPad 8th generation is gonna be the fastest basic iPad yet. You're gonna be able to notice iPad OS on the iPad 8th gen being snappy, responsive, smooth. You're gonna love the multitasking options you have through iPad OS and that powerful A12 Bionic chip. And with that having been said, you're basically gonna cover all your usual day-to-day tasks on the iPad. Email, web browsing, video streaming, maybe a little gaming, all that's gonna run smoothly, no problem, on the iPad 8th gen. For more pro-level stuff you wanna be able to get done on a tablet, that's where I would urge you to look, again, towards the iPad Air or the iPad Pro. But again, for all your basic needs in an Apple tablet, on the iPad, you should be pretty happy. But one thing I wasn't too happy to see on the new iPad are our storage options. You only have 2 storage options, and only one of them is the correct choice. On the iPad 8, you could choose either 32 gigs of storage or 128 gigs of storage. I think the minimum that I recommend anyone get in any kind of device that requires storage these days is 256 gigs. Now, that's clearly not an option on the iPad 8th generation, but with that in mind, I wouldn't even consider the 32 gig option. 32 gigs, seriously, it's mind-blowing why Apple even thought that was a good idea. Even with the cloud-based stuff you could get done on the iPad, 32 gigs is not much. Even if you're just doing web browsing, emails, the occasional photo taking, all those documents are gonna add up really quick, and considering how much space the OS itself takes and future iPad OS OTA updates, how much space they will take, 32 gigs is gonna fill up like that. Don't even consider 32 gigs. I don't know why it's an option. Get 128 gigs. Just pretend 32 doesn't even exist. But with all that in mind, one thing we always have to talk about, the battery. How much battery time are you gonna get on the iPad 8? We'll keep this really short and simple. Apple is promising up to 10 hours of web browsing and video watching on the Wi-Fi model, and 9 hours of web browsing and video watching on the cellular model. And that's solid battery life. It pretty much is what it is. That's all day battery life. That's on par with the battery life you're getting in the iPad Air and the iPad Pro, so impressive battery. That's really all there is to say about that. It's good. And that's pretty much it. That is the iPad 8th generation in a nutshell. But with having said all that, here are my final thoughts on this bad boy right here. The 8th generation of the basic iPad from Apple is meant to be just the basic iPad. It is not meant to compete with the iPad Air. It's definitely not meant to compete with the iPad Pro. It is the tablet you should consider if you just want the basic tablet from Apple. It really is just the basic iPad, but a really good iPad. You're getting iPad OS, you're getting a tablet that works within the beloved Apple ecosystem. You're getting a nice pretty display with that touch element. You're getting a basic tablet, a basic iPad that honestly just works. Obviously, you are missing some features that you're gonna get in the higher end iPads. Features that I miss the most, namely tap to wake, a USB-C connection, and Face ID. But with the Touch ID home button, that lightning port, and overall just a pretty good form factor, a nice size iPad that feels good, looks good, just works well. It's got its limitations, but limitations that are understandable based on what Apple's trying to do here with just the basic iPad. But, do yourself a favor, get the 128 gig model. Pretend the 32 gig model doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. We didn't talk about it. It's only 128 gigs. And of course, as always, if you guys are interested in finding out more about the iPad 8th generation or just to cop one for yourself, you guys could always head to my affiliate link, bmac.link/iPad8. bmac.link/iPad8, or as always, there will be a clickable link in the video description box below as well, so check that out. And with that having been said, I am gonna go watch some of my YouTube videos on this thing. Is that weird? Is that okay to do? Is that allowed? I don't know, probably not. I'm gonna do it anyway. I will see you guys in my next video. 32 gigs, why is that an option? I think this video that I gotta go edit right now, I think this video file alone might be 32 gigs. 32 gigs, why? Why?